Hey everybody, Nick G with globalcurrencyreset.net. We've got another video here with Christine LaGarde talking about the reset, of course. And before we get into the video, I want you guys to know, if you've never seen this video, it's very interesting, to say the least. She mentions reset many times. She mentions new monetary systems. She mentions things such as structural reforms, old risks, new risks. There's a lot of buzzwords in here. She mentions Iran, China, growth, jobs. I don't have time to play the whole video because it's half an hour, but you can just search for Christine LaGarde reset and it might come up, or you just search for Bloomberg Christine LaGarde. There's different ways to find this video, but for some reason it's only on two websites. So it's on. I'm watching it right now on Bloomberg.com, so that's why I'm doing my commentary from. So I'm gonna pause the video. You're not going to have to sit through the whole half an hour. I'm going to try to keep this video between 10 and 15 minutes at most. While you guys are watching this video and you're listening to it, go ahead and go to globalcurrencyreset.net. If you haven't been on my site, it's really awesome. There's a book here, the Big Reset book, free download. You're going to click that. It's going to bring you to this page here, and there's a link here for you to download the book. You're going to click that. It'll open up a PDF. And if you like that, there's a link down here to the actual book on Amazon. Or if you're watching this video, you can just type globalcurrencyreset.net/the big reset. Again, globalcurrencyreset.net/the big reset. So let's go ahead and go back to the video, and hope you guys find this interesting. Here we go.
Yeah, complacency is a risk. It's one of them. But what we're seeing at the moment, to go along with the optimism that you referred to, we are seeing recovery in consolidation at the moment. That's, our analysis. But we're also seeing risks that should be of concern. We've got the old risks that are not all sorted out, and we have some new risks as well, and I'll be happy to expand on that. And essentially what we believe is needed is a reset of the way in which the economy grows around the world. And I'll be happy to expand on that as well.
Please, let's start with the reset. How would you do it?
Well, I have to backtrack, and yeah, because if you don't have a clear picture of what the risks are, it's difficult to see how you can reset. The risks are, you have as the old one, the financial stability, which is still an issue and can be an issue, especially if there are bubbles developing here and there. We have massive unemployment, north of 200 million people who do not have a job at the moment, and a growth rate that is going at too slow a pace to actually respond to the market needs in terms of job creation. And we have still an unbalanced growth and uneven growth. Unbalanced, there has been some rebalancing, but we're not there yet. And the question is, will it last when the recovery does consolidate further? Now, in terms of new risks that we've seen, we have tapering, which is on the horizon, which is now beginning in the United States, and the spillover effects that it will have, particularly on the emerging market economies. And we have, and I'll be happy to explain also that, a low risk, but a risk there of potential deflation, particularly in Europe.
Let's start with the bubbles that you mentioned, and then we'll go through deflation. So when you say we need to reset the world economy, how do you do that?
Okay. I think the reset is on multiple fronts. Number one, the financial sector regulatory environment has to be finalized and has to be constantly re-examined, revamped, and organized in such a way that it responds to the creativity of the financial markets. That's reset number one. Reset number two that we're seeing at play at the moment is a reset of the monetary policies by most central banks of the advanced economies. They've been going into unconventional territories. They've done a great job at keeping the crisis at the level where it was. But now gradually they're going to have to move to another monetary policy. I don't know whether it will be the old monetary policy, but it will certainly be different from what we have seen in terms of unconventional and use of quantitative easing tools and other instruments that they've used. I think there is also a need for reset in terms of the type of growth that is expected. And by that, clearly, policymakers are going to have to decide between the necessary level of fiscal consolidation, which particularly in the advanced economies is still needed at a reasonable pace, and the growth-friendly measures that will be needed in order to generate a job-rich growth. So that's a reset. I don't pretend to have all the clues for that, but I think that, you know, policymakers need to think about it, academics need to think about it, we all can contribute to that debate. And, you know, final reset is the structural reforms that we have been calling for, not just in the advanced economies, but also in the emerging market economies. Because what the monetary policy has procured, in a way, is space and time for the policymakers, for all the players, to actually reform the economy so that it unleashes the potential, because we are currently below potential on a global basis.
But that hasn't happened.
So that's the set of measures that could reset going forward.
Have policymakers, heads of states, actually taken the reform agenda to hand? Because it still seems that a lot of investors, and certainly the markets, think the central banks will be there for a very long time. They say, yeah, they will tighten, but this could come in a year. So for the moment, they're enjoying the happy times.
Well, I'm not sure it's happy, but it's certainly better than what it was. And the Fed, for instance, has begun tapering. It has not begun tightening, but it has begun tapering, and it's indicating under what terms it will do so. So it's in process, and it will take time. Some countries, some policymakers have actually reformed or begun to reform their economies. And I can think of, say, in the Eurozone, a country like Spain, for instance, that has certainly brought about some significant reforms of the labor market, of various other issues. A country like Mexico, that has profoundly reformed some of its territories that were highly protected and made like turfs for those that had the benefit of the rent. You know, countries like, and I'm trying to pick different places, a country like India, for instance, needs to reform its infrastructure in particular in order to allow the economic energy and investment to settle in.
But you are...
All right, I paused the video because I found it very interesting that she mentioned specific countries. She mentioned, well, I think she's about to mention China. She mentioned India and also Spain. And this is a little chart right here, and it talks about how much gold the various countries have based on the amount of tons of gold that they have. And you can see that's China right there, which I think that's understated. I think they have a lot more gold than that. There's India right there, and then we have Spain. It's the amount of gold that each country has. So I just thought that was interesting, and she's about to get into it right now, where she discusses what she sees for 2014.
So when you look at the world for 2014, and you mentioned there the risks, what are the hot spots where you're most worried about? The emerging markets, you say, will suffer, but it will be maybe easier than last May, when we weren't expecting tapering to have such a huge effect. Are you concerned about China?
You know, I'm concerned about rebalancing all over. I'm concerned about the third reset that I mentioned, which has to do with a different type of growth that will actually create jobs where it's needed. So that's a big concern, and one that really has to be on the horizon of policymakers, of corporate leaders, and how they try to converge their respective agenda to have the right policies, the right environment, business friendly, without corruption, with an open market, so that they could, the corporate sector can actually invest and develop its business.
And one of the key themes that has been discussed here in Davos is, first of all, youth unemployment, something that people talk about but is very difficult to tackle. Is it...
All right, going back to the video again, it's well into 15 minutes into the video now, we're halfway through, and she starts talking about more reforms. She mentions a progressive tax and redistribution. So I wonder if she's referring to redistribution of wealth. I'm not certain, but I'll let you decide. Let me go ahead and resume the video, and you guys can watch it.
To better societies and to more sustainable growth. I think the Nordic countries, which have, most of them, a redistribution system by way of progressive taxation, for instance, have demonstrated that their growth is rather more sustainable than the growth of other advanced economies.
In your risks lists, we haven't mentioned geopolitical risks.
Yeah.
Are those on your mind?
Oh, very much so, yeah. You know, we typically have groups of countries. We have the advanced economies, we have the emerging market economies, and we have the low-income countries. There is one group that we formed last year, which is called ACT, Arab Countries in Transition. And that's an area of the world where we see obvious geopolitical risks, where we see obvious economic leverage to be had from, you know, sound macroeconomic policies, from international support as well as political support in the domestic markets. So that's an area of the world where we need to focus our efforts and we need to cooperate. And we're trying to do that as much as we can.
And how
Okay, we're back. So she's about to get into now the Arab countries. Specifically, she talks about the reset of Iran, also known as Persia. She mentions Article 4, and then it goes on to why is it taking so long with regards to the reset and the banking sector. And then we're pretty much done with the whole interview. So let's just go ahead and get right to it.
One that is well versed in economic matters, who seems to be very much aware of the challenges, who has ambition for a reset of Iran vis-à-vis the rest of the world, and we should accompany it. Actually, one of my teams will be on the ground in 2 days to do what we had not done in Iran for a long time, which is what we call the Article 4, which is an in-depth review of the economy of Iran. And I'm very pleased that we can reset the relationship on a sound footing with appropriate review of the economy and a thorough discussion with all the monetary and budgetary authorities.
And he was saying today that he hopes that, well, he was saying that actually Iran has the potential to become one of the 10 richest, most important countries in the world.
It's good to have ambition, it's good to have objectives, but then it's a question of making sure that you take the right measures, that you implement, that you have that level of cooperation, and I could not insist more on cooperation. You know, countries, whether it's Iran or whether it's any other country at the moment, however big it is, need to cooperate with each other. The economies are too vastly interconnected through financial channels, through trade channels, through remittance channels, to ignore each other and to assume that they can get on with growth on their own. That's not going to happen.
One of the things you also said was we need to reset the financial regulation.
Yeah.
We still don't have a banking union. Why is it taking so long? Everything seems to be taking so much longer than we thought it was.
That's because you're talking about Europe.
Yeah? Guilty as charged.
That's because you're talking about 27 sovereigns and a subset of 18, if I recall now, trying to not only get their act together, but bring about a degree of consistency, harmonization, common supervisors, common backstop, and so on and so forth. It's extremely hard. I'm not trying to find excuse for them, but it's hardly surprising that it's taking so long. What is good is that they have taken the direction. They have now quite a few directives under their belt, if I may say, and there is every reason to believe that they're going to continue. There's no more talks about the breakup of the zone, about the collapse of the European Union project. It's a question of keeping at it and making sure that there is delivery. But it's not just a European issue. You know, the financial sector regulatory environment is an international one that is tackled in different, from different focus in a way, with different rules and regulations, and to bring the degree of consistency between them all, you know, between the US regulatory system that has consistently improved, particularly lately with the Volcker rule being finally passed, with the Vickers reform in the UK, with, say, the banking law passed in France, the European directive that is sort of superseding and adding to it. It's hard work, and it has to be done. It has to be done because there will be continuous lobbying efforts on the part of the financial sector. You can't blame them. That's their job. They want to have, you know, as convenient a landscape as possible, but it has to be cognizant of the risks involved, the special responsibility that they have, and the creditworthiness that they carry.
And you've always said that we needed a culture change. Is that culture change in banking happening? Or making progress, at least?
I think it's making progress in some corners, but I think it's going to be a question of constant vigilance. It's a bit like freedom. Never surrender. Keep checking and checking.
Is there a black swan or a grey swan in 2014 that you're seeing and none of us have?
I ideally hope not. Now, as I said, I think recovery is consolidating. There's the risks that I've mentioned are of concern, particularly on the job front. And I think if people are endorsing the idea of a reset with cooperation as the sort of backbone of the resetting, we could be in good shape.
And the conversation is pointing in that direction? Because we often talk about, you have great ideas, you say we need to reset.
Yeah.
Do you think people will follow you? Have you met with heads of state? Have you met with policymakers that are saying, yes, this needs to be done and this is what we will do in 2014?
Well, if you look at the financial sector, there have been changes. If you look at the safeguards put in place in the European Union, for instance, the European Stability Mechanism, if you look at the ability of many countries to actually bring more bilateral loans to the IMF just in case, all those are positive developments. When I look at my quota reform, I wish there was a bit more sense of, let's get on with it, do it, and move on. Yeah.
Crisis has
Gouverner,
changed.
c'est prévoir.
That's very true. In English?
Failing to plan is planning to fail.
Yeah. Is there something in our DNA that has changed because of the crisis?
I would certainly hope so.
For the better?
For the better, and in terms of being, advocating some of the ancient Greek principles of balance, of measure, of fighting against excesses, eliminating abuses where they are. I think if we haven't learned that a little bit on the occasion of the crisis,
do you think we have?
That's a pity.
Have we learned something?
Future will tell. We'd better have learned something. I think we have.
But the conversations that you have with policymakers, heads of state, CEOs have moved on.
Yes, they have.
The
Yeah.
thinking's different.
Well, they still have their, next election concern as well. So, the short term collides into the medium term, but the question is to make sure that we bring the medium term into their personal and political and corporate equation, and that's the job of the IMF.
Madame LaGarde, thank you so much for your time. We're out of time. Thank you so much.
Sure.
All right, everyone, so that pretty much concludes the video. So there you go. I'll let you come to your own conclusions with what you've just seen here. So I appreciate everybody watching this video. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, that way you can get some updates. As soon as I post a new video, you will be updated. And make sure you subscribe to the newsletter. Just go to globalcurrencyreset.net and you'll see subscribe to the newsletter up on the top. And bookmark the site too. Bookmark globalcurrencyreset.net. You'll definitely get all the updates as soon as I post stuff. And remember to check out this book, The Big Reset, by Willem Middelkoop. It's an excellent book, and the link is on the webpage, or if you just want to check right now, it's globalcurrencyreset.net/The Big Reset. And we also have all the other important links here: newsletter, PDF, YouTube channel, Facebook account, Google+, Twitter, a link if you have an IRA or 401k and you want to get into gold before the reset happens. This is the link you want to go to. It's definitely important if you're not into precious metals to get some as soon as possible. And then I have a little opportunity if you want to profit before this reset actually occurs. There's a great opportunity there. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe, and when the next video comes out, you'll be notified first. Bye.